All right. So I don't want to get too controversial.
Okay.
This is legit. But we talked in our last episode about like how medieval people might respond to a person with autism.
Yeah.
Right. And there is a lot of conversation about, are certain forms of being neurotypical or whatnot, are they more common now or not? And I think absolutely people who were neurotypical existed all through time.
Absolutely.
But the research, and this is research that's really controversial, so it's very hard to get something non-politicized, seems to generally agree that even discounting for the fact that we wouldn't diagnose in the past, we are seeing more today than we used to.
Yes.
There's no way to really know. I wouldn't call it an epidemic. People call it an epidemic. That seems too pejorative to me. I have a potential explanation, and this might veer into Brandon's conspiracy theory, but those are supposed to be, low stakes. There's actually kind of high stakes on this one, but I actually have an explanation that I've never heard anyone talk about before. And maybe they have.
Okay.
But do you think this is because nerds are marrying each other now?
I don't know where I expected you to go, but it wasn't that.
Okay, go with me on this for a little bit.
Yeah.
In the past, if you were the 1800s, and I'm just spitballing here, I have no research to back this part up.
Okay.
But let's say in the 1800s, you have a neuroatypical child. You will either, unfortunately, isolate them. Through certain times, you would put them in a home or things like that, and they would never find like-minded people.
Okay.
Or you would be like, marry them off quickly.
So they're not our problem anymore.
So they're not our problem anymore, right?
Yeah.
And then our era comes along. And I am wondering if a lot of the things that, like, if you look back at the movies from our parents' era and the start of our era, what is the stereotypical nerd? Except a neurotypical person that everyone decides it's fun to make fun of.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I look at that and I think, well, I don't know many people like that, but I know a whole lot of people who have shades of that. Myself, everyone, most of the people I interact with.
Yeah.
And we do know that some being neurotypical in these ways often does have a genetic component. At least it's heritable. I wonder if in our modern society, like, it's it is okay to be not the mainstream in the way that you look at the world, the way you do things. And we have all found our own clan, our own tribe or whatever. And, I look at Leading Edge and how many, people married, not just in Leading Edge, but in the larger friend group of people we would call traditional nerds. How did I meet Emily? I met Emily through Isaac, who took my class to learn to write science fiction. He said, I know a girl who reads fantasy novels. Let me introduce you to her. I think you would hit it off. That's how I got married.
Yeah.
Right? And, Peter and Karen met Leading Edge, and we have all of these things where people are going to higher education, and they're kind of self-selecting into a group that is then marrying each other. And so the things that the world are like, oh, that's, whatever.
Yeah.
They don't, I say the world, but there are certain people who are like, oh, this is a big problem or whatnot. It's just the way we think.
It's just the way we are. Dawn and I met through a huge conversation about research papers and research practices.
Yeah.
That is not a pickup line that would have worked on many people, but it totally worked on her.
So I say this partially jokingly, right? But I also think, like, maybe what's just happening is that we're now finding each other and we are marrying each other. And this is just a way that human beings think. And I am not on the autism spectrum. But I do have that weird thing that I have where I don't feel strong emotions, which is my own brand of neurotypical. And I move in these circles. I like fantasy novels. Obviously, and things like that. So I just wonder. I just wonder if a lot of these personality characteristics that in the past were suppressed are no longer being suppressed. And that is why you're seeing...
we're finding each other. And Punnett Square says that we'll have children. Yeah, I I would not be surprised at all. I actually think that makes a lot of sense.
It just, anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm just dropping that out there. If there's an actual researcher, and they may have already covered this.
This already may have been proven or disproven,
there may have been tons of papers. But if not, and you're a researcher, have a look at that.
That's interesting.
And just say, well, maybe society is no longer suppressing these ways of thinking and acting, and we're able to find each other and marry each other. And so our children are a little neuroatypical compared to what the typical assumption of what kids are supposed to be like.
Speaking of, my son, who is psychotic.
Yes.
Ethan, he listens to this show, and every time he listens to it, he waits anxiously for me to mention him by name. So, Ethan, this is for you. There is actually every psychiatrist that has ever worked with him has thought, oh, I bet he's autistic, and had him tested, and then it's come up negative. And we are learning more and more that it's likely he just knew the right answers to say and faked his way out of the diagnosis.
Right.
But looking back on it, I think it's extremely likely that he might not even be psychotic at all. That's just the diagnosis he talked himself into when he was getting out of the autistic one.
Even someone who writes about a lot of characters and focuses on learning about these things, like we have certain assumptions that what it is to be on the spectrum. And I think even our understanding of quote unquote on the spectrum is too narrow.
Yeah.
And so I think there are brain archetypes and ways of interacting with the world, and there's a variety of them. And ones that were not people,
Yeah.
But what is Mr. Spock? You're wearing a Star Trek shirt.
I'm wearing a Star Trek shirt.
What is Mr. Spock except a neuroatypical person presented as an alien nerd?
This is how we are going to explain this behavior.
Yes.
And make it more accessible to the average American. That might be. This is something I've been thinking a lot about, actually. I agree with you that I think our definition of neuroatypical behavior is too narrow. I also think that in some ways it is too wide. And we are too quick as a society, especially with fictional characters, to point at them and say, oh, that's ADHD. Oh, that's autism.
Maybe.
And I think that part of that is just we want to see ourselves in our fiction. That is always what I'm trying to do as a writer, is let people see themselves in the characters, and that means representing a lot of different types of people. I also think to some extent it bugs me. Like every character who's really interested in something gets branded as a character with autism, which I don't think is the case in every case.
I would agree with you unless we kind of redefine the way we're looking at these things. If we say that there are different ways of seeing the world, the thing I always bring up is what percentage of the population needs glasses? When my parents, whom I love, they're from the other generation, generation.
Yeah.
They are technically boomers who act like greatest generation because they're from Idaho, so they're like a generation behind. And I think we talked about that.
Yeah,
they're
did.
Like, why would 30% of the population need some sort of antidepressant or autism diagnosis thing? Doesn't that sound ludicrous? I'm like, well, no, what percent of the population needs glasses? Like a large number of
an
people
extremely large number
need
of people
can benefit from glasses. In the same way, looking at and saying, maybe a third of our population statistically has been suppressed. This isn't a personality type you're supposed to have, so you learn to mask. When you're from a different generation, you learn to have a very outgoing personality in order to interact in social situations where it wouldn't be natural. Like, I don't know. Maybe a third of people are in some way what we would call on the spectrum of something. Why would that be weird? More than a third of us need glasses. meaning more than a third of us can benefit from glasses. Why would it be weird? Let's use depression. Why would it be weird if a third of people could benefit from some sort of antidepressant or counseling to help with depression? That's not that weird compared to the fact that how many of us need or can use glasses in our lives. How many people would benefit, and I'm treating autism like being nearsighted, which it really shouldn't be, but how many people out there could benefit from a different learning paradigm and teaching paradigm because they learn and see the world differently from Nate is a third. It could be even more. Who knows?
And that is a really good way of looking at it, is who could benefit from a different, different tools, different situations, different environment, rather than who needs it.
Yes.
Because one of the issues we have when studying autism is that it is a spectrum.
Yep.
It is arguably many different conditions that we right now, because we don't understand them well, are lumping all under the same name.
Right. I mean, I do have a nephew who was largely nonverbal for many years. He obviously needs something different, and it's impacted his life in a different way than my son, who goes to Spectrum Academy, who benefits greatly from just some slightly different teaching methods. And some, like classes on here's some better ways to interact and some ways to understand how other people might be reacting to you. He benefits greatly from that. Very different cases.
Yeah.
We both would lump both of those under autism. And that's a pretty wide spectrum.
Yeah, it is. I read a thing a couple weeks ago about a woman whose special interest is a very specific movie on DVD. And she has, over the course of her life, collected like a couple hundred of these DVDs because that's how her brain focuses on this thing. And I've got other friends who have autism, and their special interest is, much, I don't want to say shallower. I want to say less intense.
Yeah.
And often even changes. I've got a friend who every couple of months will become deeply obsessed with a very specific thing, and then, a few months later, deeply obsessed with a very different thing. Those are clearly both a thing. I don't want to discount either one of those by saying, oh, well, you don't have it as bad as this other person.
Right.
Because that's not the way to look at this. But they are very different situations being expressed in a very different way.
Let's talk about, I'm sure Emily will be fine if we mention Emily has somewhat recently, last couple of years, gotten an ADHD diagnosis, which is, she on part hates it because it's all the rage, right? And people don't want to get it because it's all the rage. Again, my argument might be, what if it's all the rage because a third of the population could use some of these tools and they never got them because it's stigmatized, right? And one of the things that happens with her and that is time blindness. She doesn't know what time it is. The hyper focus part of ADHD leads her sometimes, well, all the time, to just have no clue how much time has passed. That doesn't happen to me. I always know generally what time it is. If I don't, I'm like, oh, I need to check my watch so my internal clock can catch up so I know what time it is. And if you say, meet me at this time, if I'm late, I know I'm late.
Yeah.
Right? I knew I was going to be late leading up to that. Doesn't mean I'm never late, but it means I'm aware of it. And early in our marriage, I say like the first 15 years, like I'd be like, all right, time to go. We have to be there in 30 minutes. And I'd go get in the car because I'd know. And then I'd sit there. And I'd finally go looking for Emily. And she's like organizing her closet. And I'm like, we need to have left 15 minutes ago. She's like, oh, and she didn't know that it had been 15 minutes. She thought it had been 2.
Yeah.
And like this was, I don't get really aggravated, so I wasn't aggravated, but this was always the thing. I'm like, Emily's just going to make me wait. And in my head, she knew she was making me wait. Because when I'm late, I'm making people wait.
Yeah.
And I don't want to always, but sometimes I make that calculation and be like, with her, complete time blindness, a huge indicator of ADHD.
Yeah.
Her knowing that and getting just some resources to understand time blindness and that not the whole world, like other, I wouldn't even say, we say neurotypical. She might be the typical and I might be the atypical, but other people who don't share that are going to respond in certain ways. Just having some training and even the ability to say to me, she's like, it's time blindness. And I'm like, oh, this isn't a thing you're doing to make me wait because you just do. Changes everything. And so having vocabulary, having understanding, these are really important and useful tools.
Yeah. There's a local author, and I won't say his name because I don't know how public he's being about this. But I would see him at local conventions, once or twice a year, and he would put out a book every couple of years. And then COVID hit, and we didn't do local conventions for a couple of years.
Right.
And then I saw him again. I was like, hey, how's it going? And he said, well, I just got diagnosed with ADHD about a year ago. I have, some tools to use. I have some medication for it.
Yeah.
I have written 8 books in the last year because, he'd been living all his life with this kind of, with a brain that worked in a different way than mine. And that gave him a much bigger hill to climb up every time he tried to write a book. And getting that diagnosed, getting it treated, changed his life.
Again, I looked at my parents and they're like, does 1/3 the population, or do all these people really need ADHD medication? I'm like, if it makes their lives better, then yes. Again, right? So what if half the population ends up needing ADHD medication and it seriously makes their lives better? We get half the population glasses.
Yeah.
Because it makes their lives better. Could I live without glasses? I probably could. People that are as nearsighted as me, I'm pretty bad. I'm like a -8 or a -9 or something, just really terrible. But they didn't just die, right?
Yeah.
Like I can see there's a human being there. I can do a job. I can probably plow a field. Right? I can probably pick whatever they're picking. I just have to be like, I could live without glasses. It would make my life so much worse.
Yeah.
The people who have a -2, they can live like without glasses way easier. Does that mean their life isn't better by being able to get that corrected? No, it's much better. Let's let people decide for themselves and not call things an epidemic.
Yeah.
If what we're really having happen is people are finally finding out ways to live their lives better the way they want to.
The DSM and kind of at least the Western psychological industry defines something as a disorder.
Yep.
If it impedes your life, if it impedes your living your life, and if there is a condition you have that does not, then you have a form of mental condition, but they don't consider it a disorder because it is not disordering you.
Yep.
And if we expand our definition of disorder to the point to, catch all of these kind of cases where, yes, you could survive without it. Yes, you've lived your whole life without it, but your life will be much better once we diagnose and treat this. That would be so awesome.
Don't stress, I guess is what I'm saying to listeners. If you're like, maybe that's me. Oh, it's too trendy. It's too fatty. There's too many people. Go see if it helps.
Yeah.
That isn't actually our topic for today, but that's one of the things. No, our topic is, I have another brain and theory. Our topic is brain and theories.
We've talked for 20 minutes on this.
Yes, but that one was more interesting than the one I'm going to introduce. So,
okay.
Pretend I didn't say that.
So
audience.
The controversial portion of our episode
I don't know, this might be
done.
controversial as well.
Okay.
My other theory is I've started having a theory that Civ 7 and New Coke are related.
That the phenomenon of their existence shares traits. Okay.
And I'm looking for a term for this. So, New Coke. For those young kids who are too young to know New Coke, in the 80s, I want to say.
Yes.
Coke was for the first time facing serious opposition from Pepsi. Serious market share was being left. Being
Pepsi
grabbed.
started an ad campaign that
Yes.
was taste tests.
Yep.
And Pepsi wins taste tests all the time.
Yep.
Overwhelming majority of the taste tests, Pepsi will beat Coke every time.
Blind taste test. People are like, oh, that one tastes better.
And so they started running these as TV commercials and everything.
And Coke's like, well, crap. And I think, I could be wrong, I'm not a Coke drinker. I think it might be a sweetness level. A hint more sweet
Pretty much what it is.
going to win. Just like putting a little bit more butter in something generally will make you win. A little more salt, a little more butter, and you're gonna beat the competition.
Yeah.
As long as you already have a good product, a good thing you're cooking. So, so Coke is like, well, we ought to change Coke because Pepsi is overtaking us, and they developed New Coke. And it overwhelmingly, in all of their internal and external, every taste test, everything they did, people largely preferred it. And then they released it, and it flopped horribly.
It was a legendary disaster
Yes.
that they still teach in marketing classes.
Yep. And that's really interesting because why would it flop if it's a quote unquote superior product? If the testing of it indicates to people we like this. And the thought in my head, and I'm sure this has again been studied to death, but you know, this is Brandon's take on it, is that, well, people they like to have, I don't want to say they put things in boxes, but they like to know this is Coke. I like Coke for these reasons. I like Coke being there. It does certain things. And even if there is a superior product that I might use in other situations, I don't want Coke to become and take over that superior product because I already have. Like, I know if I want a Pepsi or a Coke. And I'll order the Pepsi if I want one. I will order a Coke if I want one. Coke trying to become Pepsi lost this giant user base. I say user base because it's modern. This giant, this whatever, that liked Coke and entered then a place where they had already won their niche. They tried to enter a niche where they had to compete. And that's part of, I think, the disaster. It's a little bit like a writer writing a new genre of book, which it's very hard for a lot of times to get readers to jump to a new genre with an author, even if the book is good and they would like the book, because they maybe have authors in those genres that they like. And when they're wanting a, say, fantasy novel, they go to this author. And when they're wanting something else, they go to this author. And they've already kind of sorted that out in their brain. And then suddenly by leaving this genre and going to that one, you're competing with all of the people they already have there and they like. And maybe they would like your book better than, you know, they would like your fantasy book, but they really like your I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't even really explain it.
Well, you can see this with Jim Butcher. He's a great example.
Yes.
Codex Solara and his kind of high fantasy stuff, they're very good and they are successful, but they are not they're not remotely as successful as his Dresden Files urban fantasy stuff.
And Dresden Files, let's point out, Dresden Files gets really good. But the first Dresden Files, I think, is a lot weaker than the Codex Solaris. And I think the Dresden Files, the first one's weaker than the Cinder Spires. Like, you know. But yeah, that's a good example. And I think
people know him and love him for Dresden Files. That's often their introduction to Jim Butcher, and they don't necessarily follow him into other genres.
Yeah, and I think part of it is not that fans are fickle or fans are like, oh, we only want. It's that it's this idea that we have a thing that we know we like. I've been thinking a lot about Civ 7, right? To catch those who maybe don't know.
We did a whole episode.
We did a whole episode, but if you don't know, just quickly, I have loved all the Civilization games 1 through 6, and I don't love 7. In fact, I'm back playing 5 instead of 7.
Instead of even 6.
I've played 6 so much to death that I had never really tried. There's a when everyone migrated to Civ 6, those who love Civ 5 stayed behind and made over a sequence of years a great kind of all encompassing mod that the community designed that took all the best parts of all the mods that they liked and just completely rebuilt Civ 5.
Cool.
And I've never played that.
Okay.
Because that was being done while I was playing Civ 6. And so I went back, and it's stunning how much better their mod is even than base Civ 5, which was a good game. It's called Vox Populi.
I've heard of that.
And it is just spectacular. The AI is excellent. Like, I have lost games. I haven't lost a Civ game in how knows how long. But this, I underestimated their AI, and I just started playing, and they just destroyed me a couple of times. And that's cool.
Yeah.
But that's because I'm playing on the highest difficulty. You don't have to play on that level, but suddenly a bunch of their mechanics are just so much better. They made a Civ 5 that is a better Civ 5. So I've been playing that. Civ 7 abandoned a bunch of the core principles of Civ.
Yeah.
To do things that are genuinely interesting.
In an attempt to solve very specific problems
with the Civ
that
formula.
genuinely are problems. Civ 7 has gone in some very different directions than they ever have before.
And they new-coked civilization. If you go look right now the Steam charts, you can see like what people are playing. Civ 5 is double often or triple what Civ 7 is. Civ 5 was released in 2006 or something like that.
Something a long time ago.
This 20-year-old game is just dominating the new one. And of course, Civ 6 is often 5-6 times what Civ 7 is. That's not as surprising because you have a large install base of Civ 6 and people slowly adopting the new expensive game. But they have similar all-time highs from their opening weeks.
Okay.
So the community seems to be rejecting Civ 7. Not completely. There are people who really love it. And they love it for genuinely good reasons.
Yeah.
Because the Civ 7 does some really cool things that are genuinely better than the series has ever been. But it's not Coke anymore. It's New Coke.
Yeah.
And watching this and thinking about that as a creator is just really fascinating to me. And watching the missteps of the flagship series in this genre, the progenitor and still for years the best.
Yeah.
To see them reinvent themselves and then end up as New Coke.
Which is interesting.
It is fascinating to me. And that phenomenon, trying to look for a name for it is interesting.
So I worked in marketing for years and years before I went full-time writing. And in marketing terms, one of the things going on here is what we call brand extension.
Yes.
Which is why, Coke has successfully done brand extension once with Diet Coke. And they have done all kinds of other things. Cherry Coke has been big and occasionally surfaces, and it has its fans. Never approaches even a fraction of the success of Coke itself.
Coke and Diet Coke. Both, yeah. Even Coke Zero doesn't seem to have the success.
Coke Zero is trying very hard and is doing a pretty good job. But anytime you take a core brand and you say, okay, now it's going to be different. Now we're going to add Pepsi has gone into Diet Pepsi. Diet Pepsi is hard to find. Because it didn't survive the way Diet Coke did. Crystal Pepsi, never took off. It's virtually impossible, not always impossible, as Diet Coke proves, but very, very difficult to extend a brand into a new product and be as successful as the original product. And you can see that with, with authors, you can see it with books, you can see it with food, you can see it with all kinds of stuff.
Why? So I've given my why I think that is. Why do you think about us psychologically that is? Why is it hard for Coke to make a really great product and then have it be successful?
Part of what's going on here is another marketing principle just called first in market. Coke was the first cola.
Yep.
The first one to really take off and be gain national and international notoriety. It loses taste tests constantly. There are other better colas out there, but Coke was the first in. And even in the 80s when Pepsi was creeping up on it, it never overtook it. More people worldwide know the name Coke than know most brands you could mention.
So are we mistaking something? Is there an argument for the taste tests not proving that it's a superior product? Are people taking the taste tests and being like, this one's too similar to Coke and I already have Coke? Ergo, I'll vote for this one because this is old and familiar and I already have that.
Well, what you get with first in market is brand loyalty,
okay,
which is part of why brand extension is so difficult.
But it's not working for Civ.
It's not working for Civ.
Brand loyalty isn't enough. Everyone tried the new
Well, that's
one.
the thing. People are loyal to the one that gives them what they want. Civ 7 is a brand extension, essentially.
Yes.
And Civ has been constantly improving itself, but it has been essentially the same product since Civ 1. They have always added new little bits and different mechanics. Civ 5 changed the way that combat work and unit stacking work.
Right. And people don't play Civ 4 anymore.
Yeah.
If you look at the Steam charts, they don't. We should get a remaster. By the way, that might help. You guys over there at Fire Axis, if you're like, oh no, give us a Civ 4 remaster. But it seems to be that people really like one unit per tile rather than Doom stacks.
Yeah. So that was a new mechanic, but it didn't fundamentally change the game. The game is still the same. It gives you the same feeling.
It didn't stretch too far.
Yeah. Whereas Civ 7 is the first time they've really said, okay, this is a completely different kind of game now. Which that's why we're seeing the brand loyalty to 5 and 6, because that is the experience that they love.
Yeah.
And Civ 7 is saying, well, this new experience is better, and maybe it is or maybe it isn't, but people stay loyal to first in market.
I would be curious to see what people say in the comments about kind of this. Is there something we're not considering? Because I feel like there is. I feel like it's more than first in market. I feel like it's more than there's something going on here about human psychology that's, like I said, I have this thing. I don't need this thing to become something else.
I don't need the new thing, yeah.
I will try the new thing from someone else and maybe love it and have it there. But I already know what this thing is.
Yeah.
And I want to keep it.
I totally recognize that Pepsi tastes better than Coke. I still drink Coke instead.
Does it taste better then?
I think so. But part of what I like about Coke, and to be fair, I have not had any soda at all in months.
Okay.
Because I'm trying to cut it out of my diet. But the thing that I liked about Coke back when I drank it is the burn of it. There is that kind of battery acid flavor to it that
apparently
Pepsi doesn't have.
It's citrus. There's a strong citrus component. But yeah.
Yeah. And so,
so that's better. That tastes better to you.
It tastes better to me.
Oh, was it you?
Oh.
No, it was me. Yeah, I'm being nice and feeding my girlfriend's sugar gliders. So this is my reminder that while she's out of town, go feed them.
Donald's over there feeding sugar gliders remotely.
Aren't you the one that
like
told us phones
future
off?
Person.
I was the one that said phones off. This is
sweet.
One reminder that I forgot I had.
That's all right. We don't want the sugar gliders to starve. But anyway, we're almost done. Let us know. But I would argue to Dan that you do like the taste of Coke better.
Yeah, I think I would still pick Pepsi in a blind taste test. That's the thing, and it's because of the sugar.
But you like the Coke better.
But I prefer Coke,
and so something's going on here. Anyway,
yeah.
We're out of time. Sugar gliders need to get fed. Welcome back from Japan.
Yeah. So, how's that, Ben?